Destiny 2 Warmind is the newest expansion for Destiny 2, and while it has some really cool ideas within there, it doesn't fundamentally fix any problems you may have with the game. The first part of the expansion is the story mode that introduces a new protagonist called Anna Bray, which is an interesting character but is definitely not really, you don't learn a lot about her throughout about the 2-hour campaign, but it's still good to have a new character that brings sort of new dynamic when interacting with you and other protagonists. And overall, it's not too bad of an expansion in terms of its story content. You learn a little bit about the world and other things, but you don't exactly feel very motivated to keep going to the end of the campaign, which is, I guess, kind of fine because it's pretty short. Beyond that, the major changes come from the public events, which have introduced a brand new one, something from the first game, and also the one that everyone's probably know about, which is called the Escalation Protocol. And this is kind of where my biggest gripe comes with the game, is the fact that Escalation Protocol is an incredibly fun aspect of the game. You play it with up to 9 guardians, taking down increasingly tougher waves of enemies in a sort of horde mode. The only problem is this is in a public event area, and it's got to be triggered, and then also you've got to find the luck of 9 other capable guardians willing to work together to take on the waves of enemies. And to be honest, in my experience, that didn't happen very often. And when I did get a few players that are willing to cooperate with each other, we never kind of reached the number required to sort of take on the tougher waves, and instead it sort of always ended up like fizzling out a bit when things got a little bit tough, because you can't stop them from just running away or losing interest. What I would have loved to see is the Escalation Protocol take place maybe on its own map, with its own matchmaking or at least private invite system, so you can actually grab your friends and jump in, because there's no guaranteed luck that you will get in there with your friends. And it's sort of disappointing. I feel like it's a real wasted opportunity to not take advantage of this new, well, to me it almost feels like a mode, because the challenge and the gameplay required and the cooperation is a ton of fun. But like I said, it fizzles out by the end. Sort of the loot mix, the loot sort of grind is still there very much so, if not more than ever. You still have the mod system, which doesn't make a ton of sense all the time, and sort of gathering new power levels up, it feels tougher than ever, especially when you're taking on sort of the heroic strikes and everything else, and you're not getting the loot or the level that you sort of need to progress further, so you end up hitting this wall fairly soon and you sort of start to grind pretty tough. It's still a lot of fun to jump in, do your dailies, do your weeklies, and eventually get up a level or two, but it's not to the level where it's satisfying. The game adds also new multiplayer modes, new maps, like overall it adds new things to the game and the experience. The only thing is adding doesn't necessarily make things better, and that's where the biggest downfall of Warmind is you have more, there's more to do, which you can grind. Like the new strikes add new modifiers, which is a ton of fun to add little differences to challenges of the same strikes that you play over and over again, but that doesn't fundamentally fix the core problems that Destiny 2 has, and this doesn't do anything. And it's not even like putting a band-aid on it. It almost feels like they're sort of creating a new wound and sort of getting you to pay attention to that and hope the other one heals or you forget about it, which I don't think is going to happen. We have a new expansion coming out in September, but Warmind doesn't fix any of the fundamental problems you may have already had. It does add some new stuff, and I really did enjoy myself with it, but at this time I kind of feel like I'm just playing it because I want to keep up, not necessarily because I'm always enjoying it. I'm enjoying it more than I did after the first expansion, but it's not where it should be.